So I want to read the closing arguments from the prosecutors yesterday. I didn't get to post it, and so I'm going to get right into it. It's pretty long. And on top of that, there's a lot of vulgar language and explicit language that I'm going to try and work around. So bear with me with that. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to hear what happened in court if you have not already. So I'm going to go ahead and read it now and get right into it. Okay, say the prosecutor started with, over the last few weeks, you've learned that Sean Combs is the leader of a criminal organization. He doesn't take no for an answer. He's involved in kidnapping, arson, forced labor, bribery of a security officer, and the brutal crimes of ex trafficking. Consider two moments. March 2016, at the Intercontinental Hotel, the defendant got violent with Cassie. You saw what happened. He dragged her back to the F off. Then in 2024, at Jane's house, the defendant choked and hit her. She ran but couldn't get away. These are chapters in the same book. The defendant counted on silence and shame. He thought that his fame, wealth, and power put him above the law. Over the last 7 weeks, you've heard how he used his staff to promote and protect his power. No one could stop him. We're going to talk about RICO, included ex trafficking and transportation for being a prosie. Y'all know what that means, prosie. That's how I'm going to say it. Both of which are also separately charged as standalone crimes. You may have heard of racketeers. When someone commits crime as part of a group, they are more dangerous. This was a group of people whose sole purpose was to serve and protect the defendant. It was his kingdom. Everyone was there to fulfill his every desire, including his sexual desires. We only need to show at least two racketeering crimes. The defendant was the head of the Combs enterprise. There was an inner circle, his chief of staff, and his bodyguards. They talking about KK. The names changed, but the roles remained the same. You've heard about KK, Combs' right brain. She lived in Two Star and communicated with the defendant's girlfriends. You heard the names of his security: D-Rock, Bonds, Rube, Uncle Polly, and Fahim. They were armed and ready. Remember the diner incident with Suge Knight? David James told you Combs had pals. In the search, law enforcement found weapons, including a rifle with the serial numbers defaced in LA. Two AR-15s with their serial numbers cut out were found in the defendant's closet. You also have the rotating cast of assistants, all paid through the defendant's businesses. Brendan Paul said he made $100,000 a year. KK made 6 times that. Yeah, that's because she was doing everything under the sun for him. Okay. Let's keep going. When your boss asks you to buy substances, it's a crime. When you kidnap someone or lock a girlfriend in a hotel room after your boss stumps on her face, it's a crime. Jane asked for $100,000 a year to move on. She thought it was reasonable, far less than what Cassie received. The defendant went ballistic. She refused to adopt his false narrative. You can read the text messages. Jane wrote that the defendant threatened to show her tapes to the father of her child. Then he reached out and told her to come see him in Miami. She made it clear she didn't want a hotel night. He said okay. Despite that, he called a male worker. Here are more threats about rent. Jane wrote, I hate worrying about the rent. This was in 2024. It all culminated in June 2024. He assaulted her and forced her to perform mouth activities on an adult worker. Okay? I'm trying to work around these words, y'all. This is ex trafficking. It was interstate. Astroglide crossed state lines. Now I read that yesterday. I'm still not sure why they said Astroglide crossed state lines. But whatever. I guess just saying supplies to do what he was doing. But let me keep going. I don't want to give too much commentary because it's already long enough. The defendant knew or recklessly disregarded that force, threats of force, coercion, or fraud were used. Consenting once does not mean she consented every time. One time is enough. In 2023, he made Jane believe she was going to have a proper NYC weekend, but he invited male workers. Jane sent him another message saying, "It's dark and sleazy. I'm in fear of losing my home." His response, "Girl, stop." Then he FaceTimed her and talked about stopping and having dinner. He lied. At the same time, he was texting Paul Arthur, a male worker. Look at these messages. He was setting up a hotel night. When Jane was in the air, he told her he had a surprise. She didn't want it. That before the plane even landed is a completed act of ex trafficking. He tricked her. Then under coercion, she called Cabral to come to New York. In her next text, she said, "In New York City, I knew you would pair me up with a random person." At a sobriety party without substances, she was so disgusted, she vomited. She wrote, "I'm not a adult star. I'm not an animal. I need a break." The defendant responded, "Let's spend the day, no strangers." She replied, "You'll love bomb me." He switched from carrot to stick. The house, he texted, "Are you going to let me into our house?" 8 times. Then he said he was sick and needed her. She went and had relations with 3 different men without substances. After vomiting, he said, "Get back out there." In 2024, at Jane's house, 3 months after Homeland Security agents searched the defendant's home, they used Jane's house. He came there. They were supposed to have a fun date night. They drank and argued. She pushed his head into the counter. He shouted at her. She told him to leave. She ran and closed doors. He kicked down 3 doors. You saw the doors. Here's one of them. She ran without shoes. She hid. He was waiting. Jane hit the defendant. He punched her in the face. He dragged her by the hair back into the house. Jane took his phone and called another woman. She shouted. The defendant called Jonathan Perez. I guess she shouted, and then the defendant called Jonathan Perez. He followed her into the shower and hit her, knocked her down. He called Anton, the male adult worker, and told her to have relations with him. Jane put on makeup to hide her injuries. She drove to pick up Anton at the gate. Then the defendant said, "Take this effing pill." He put his face inches from hers and asked, "Is this coercion?" He was brazenly acknowledging he was breaking the very same law he violated before. Jane didn't want to have relations with the male worker that night. She said no, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. Jane performed mouth activities with Anton until he finished, pretty much. The defendant told his security to bring cash to Anton. They didn't have it. The next day, he gave Jane the money to pay Anton. She Ubered the bag of money to him. This is coercion. David Phillips heard Combs yell, "When I tell you to come here, you come here." So basically, he said, "B, when I tell you to come here, come here." After that, Daniel Phillips couldn't perform. But a completed act is not required for X trafficking. This is X trafficking. In Cannes, at the film festival, the defendant accused Cassie of stealing his substances. He threw her off the boat they were staying on. Mia heard an audio of this and recognized the voices. They flew back to New York. She traded seats to get away, but he followed and showed her F-off videos. He threatened to release the S tapes. When they got to New York, they had an F-off. This is another example of clear-cut coercion. He threw her off a boat without her passport. He wanted Cassie to be afraid and to say no. Cassie said, "I didn't know what no would mean, what no would turn into. He could be violent." The defense said Cassie made a choice every day to stay with him. Step back. Imagine yourself as Cassie. This was the force. This was the leverage. There were substances, dissociative and numbing. She needed that buffer. Yes, some of the messages are explicit. That doesn't mean she wanted to have relations with male workers at F-offs. In 2009, he wrote, "You are supposed to be all day." Cassie told the defendant didn't want to do F-offs. Take her birthday party. Deontay told you about it. He demanded she F-off, and she did. What choice did Cassie have in the end? She did not have the freedom to make voluntary adult choices. Let's go back to count one. While it was the defendant in the F-offs, he had help from KK, D-Rock, and Fahim. He knew it was wrong, or they knew it was wrong. How did they facilitate? KK got strange men access to rooms the defendant and Cassie shared. She got Clayton Howard, Dave access to the room. Jonathan Perez found the video of Cassie having relations with a male worker and showed it to KK. She knew. Fahim saw it too. Fahim got substances to the defendant even during the F-offs between sessions. They coming after them, y'all. I said I wasn't gonna do much commentary. They coming after them. Do you see how they are breaking it down and like basically letting it be known that they are for sure involved in this? They are coming for all the security guards and KK. But let me keep going. On February 18th, 2024, after Jane told KK still sent supplies for Wild King nights. D-Rock iced Cassie's black eye. It would be absurd to think D-Rock didn't know what they were doing. Of course he knew. I expect the defense will say they didn't know. David James saw a stranger. Deontay Nash saw one. Jonathan Perez saw video of Jane having relations with another man while the defendant watched. Interstate travel for basically adult activities. The defendant paid escorts. He caused the travel. He sometimes booked it. The transportation counts do not require force, fraud, or coercion. Even if the all consented, and we know that's not true, it's still a crime. It's just knowing transportation with the intent the individual engages in prosy. Okay? For count 3, F-offs involving Cassie, the male worker's travel was often booked by travel agents. She remembered Dave and Clayton Howard. He would travel from New York to Miami or LA. Another male worker traveled to Ibiza. Government Exhibit 1402. This was Jules Theodore at the London Hotel in New York. The defendant asked for Jules' name for the ticket. His Amex card shows he paid for a car. There's a $2,000 bill from the London Hotel. The defendant texted, I will tip you. For what? Relations, okay? For the incident alone, the defendant is guilty under count 3, but there's more. More jewels at the London Hotel starting at 7 a.m. Consider this. Paul going to Turks. The defendant says, how should I pay? He paid for Paul's travel to Turks for X, okay? Adult relations. Here, Reggie flew from Las Vegas to LA for relations. Jane sent $1,100 via Cash App. Here is the hotel folio, $4,000 in damage. The hotel staff found bodily fluids on the floor. It couldn't be clearer. Every time KK helped arrange travel for the Wild King nights, she was part of the crime. Oh, they coming for her. She may not have liked it, but she did it. KK set up travel for the travel for the Wild King nights in Vegas. Combs' voice, the wildest Wild King night in Vegas. KK knows. KK helped Cabral book his travel. Combs asked her for cash. She knew exactly what was going on. She facilitated travel for the male workers. Each is a racketeering act. You only need to find 2. Just here, there are dozens. They are coming for KK. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the commentary for at a minimum, but they are coming for KK and the rest of them. The way they breaking it down and the way they are wording this, let you know they are coming for them. I guess after this case is over, oh man, they better have. That's all I gotta say. Let me keep going. I expect the judge will instruct you on forced labor. You heard of forced labor involving 4 women: Cassie, Jane, Mia, and Capricorn. For Cassie and Jane, it was grueling adult services. Cassie called them grueling, up to 4 days, maybe even more. Jane said the same thing. Cassie and Jane were on call to perform FOS for the defendant whenever and wherever he wanted. He used force to or threats of force. He would say, "Let's finish on a high note. Let's push through. You're not tired, are you?" It took weeks to recover from these FOs. That's forced labor. KK kept setting up hotel rooms and flights. Let's turn to Mia. She worked for Combs, finally at Revolt. She went 5 days without sleep. Combs SA'd her. He put his hands up her dress. He came into her bedroom and basically, look, okay, I can't say all these words, but y'all get it. He came into the closet and forced her to perform mouth things to him, okay? There was a time in the bathroom of a private jet she can't fully remember. Repeated traumatic events. She was clear as a bell even under cross-examination. She performed labor and services, including adult services. He threw her against the wall and slammed a door on her arm. She saw violence at Prince's party and in Turks. When they were in South Africa, KK told Mia, "If you don't call him in 10 minutes, you don't have a job." He had all the power and control. She knew she couldn't say no, even to little things. Mia knew her job was to protect the defendant. HR was for Combs. She couldn't go to the police due to his power. The threats left her with no option. I expect you'll hear she could have left. That she told Combs she loved him. Mia pulled no punches. There were high highs and low lows. Capricorn Clark had an issue with overtime. She took it to the head of HR, whose name is Vashta Wilson, but HR was the defendant's puppet. The defendant and Uncle Polly threatened her in Central Park. Then there was the lie detector and being taken to Kid Cudi's house. Capricorn Clark had a son to provide for. Combs threatened to blacklist her, and then came the witness tampering and obstruction. After Cassie filed her lawsuit, this weaves the whole story together. Jane wrote, "You gaslit me." She posed a problem for the defendant. So Combs called Jane. The calls were recorded on KK's phone. You can listen to them. On November 19th, 2023, Cassie's lawsuit was already settled, but he was afraid of a criminal investigation. He calls and asks, "What can I do to make you feel better?" He says, I can't be speaking on the phone. He was worried the U.S. would get 3 years of his text messages with Jane. While recording the call, he tries to convince her she was willing. He says, "We just did some kinky I thought we both enjoyed." Do you hear on the recorded call the sound of notes being taken with a Sharpie, planning how to get Jane to say what they wanted? You saw it during this trial. Lawyers passing notes to each other. Then Combs had D-Rock reach out to Mia asking her to say something. Mia told you her reaction. She had seen the defendant bash in Cassie's head. D-Rock had seen it too. He was asking her to agree with the lie. As the federal investigation grew, they kept reaching out to Mia. D-Rock called her 5 times in a row. The chart Miss Sankar presented brings this all together. The defendant's conduct towards Mia is also obstruction and witness tampering. Also obstruction. The video of the intercontinental assault. It's bribery, but also obstruction. Finally, the venue. We only have to show one act occurred in this district. It doesn't have to be criminal. The Southern District of New York includes Manhattan and the Bronx. Count 2, F-offs in Manhattan. Count 3, F-offs, Jules at London Hotel in Manhattan. Count 4, Jane in Manhattan. You spent 7 weeks listening. A lot of evidence was hard to hear or to see. You heard from Kid Cudi, whose house was broken into and whose car was burned. You heard from Regina Ventura and Deontay Nash, how the defendant ran the enterprise with total control. It's time to hold him accountable. It's time to find him guilty. So yeah, that is the end of the full closing arguments from the prosecutors yesterday. I tried to piece it together so it wouldn't be so all over the place because it was a lot of errors, but still shout out to the inner city press for the amazing job that they have done throughout this entire trial. And yeah, they are coming for KK, D-Rock, and everybody else who was involved. And you could just tell because it seemed like they made it a point to stress how involved they were in these closing arguments so that when they come for them, it is proof that it's proof that they was involved anyway, but the way they worded it just let you know that they are coming after them. Yes, they are coming after them. I seen people criticizing, the closing argument from the prosecutors. They expected something different, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of, expected it to be a little bit different too. But I don't have I don't have much to say about their closing argument off the strength. I feel like they rebuttal is going to be even stronger because as I told you guys yesterday morning, how this works is the prosecutors would do their closing argument, then the defendant will do theirs, and then the prosecutor will get a chance to do a rebuttal at the end and have the last word before the jury go into deliberation. So that is what is going on, and it's not looking good. It's really not looking good. I don't see how he's going to get off of these charges. But you never know. We have seen cases where we just knew, the person was not getting off. O.J. Simpson, for one. But in the same token, it's not like Diddy has the same lawyers that O.J. Simpson had, because I feel like his lawyers are pretty... and I hate to say it, everything in this video is alleged before I say it, but I feel like they are pretty weak and they just didn't have a leg to stand on throughout this entire trial. They didn't have a defense. He don't have any witnesses. It's like it's nothing there for him. Like they got him so backed up in the corner, he really should have took the plea deal that they offered him in the beginning. I don't know why he would want to go to trial and let all this stuff come out on him like this. Yeah, because it's really not looking good at all. That was very foolish of him. And these charges are very serious and they can lead to him spending life in prison. So I don't know what he was thinking. And his legal team, they probably tried to advise him, but we know, that Diddy has this big ego and he's hard-headed and he think he can do whatever he wants and he think he can fool people all over and that things go his way. That's what he has been trained to think. He wasn't trained to think that. He trained himself to think that because the money got to his head and he paid his way to get whatever he want, pretty much. Okay. So, that's the end of that. We're going to see what happened today in court. I'm going to try to post it later on, this evening when they're done, with the closing arguments. I think the defense is going today. Yeah, the prosecutors, they should be done. So the defense should be doing their closing arguments today. And we'll see what happened. Other than that, that's all I have for you guys. Tell me what y'all think in the comments. I would really love to hear what other people think, because I see a lot of people criticizing the closing arguments from the prosecutor when at the end of the day, did y'all forget they get the last word? So they probably want to wait and let the defendant get up, the defense get up there today and go through this long rant about why their client is innocent and everybody lied on him, and then they're gonna go back and point out even more stuff. So that's the way I look at it, y'all. That's it. That's all I got for y'all, and I am out. Bye.